Hello there. We're in Exmouth Market today. It's not far from where I live. Often go there for breakfast of a morning. So that's what we're doing here today. And I'm going to Gales, which is just being hit by a bicycle there. Just going to Gales, which is a nice little bakery kind of sort of breakfasty, lunchy place. Which has tables outside, so it's convenient for drawing views. Have the canopies down today, so I'm going to avoid those. Really looking at that view of the restaurant opposite called Morrow, which is one of the kind of famous restaurants of the area, been there a long time, very good for its quality food. Not that this is a food channel, so let's not dwell on that. I'm going to be trying something a little different today. What I want is a sort of background texture that doesn't necessarily relate to what I'm drawing, just something that gives energy and kind of a background sort of buzz to everything. I am choosing colours which do relate to what the final view is, but I'm not kind of putting down a pencil line first to work out perspective or vanishing points or anything like that. I'm just literally starting off with a sort of grittiness, a background grittiness, almost random. And then I'm going in with watercolour and 20mm-ish brush just to kind of establish the kind of big shadow marks and the big kind of textural games. And you can see from the the end product, the drawing that I achieve in the end, that it kind of works. It doesn't feel as if it's going to work now. And if there's one sort of story I would pass on, when I leave, it's that sense that you can't judge a sketch you do by that first 10-20 minute moment. You just can't, because everybody thinks, oh no, this is going badly wrong. I mean, everybody does. At this moment, I was thinking, turn the camera off and put it in the bin and don't let anybody see you've ever done it, because it just seems nonsensical. It seems madness. It seems like you've lost any sense of trying to really respond to the moment. It almost seems randomized and stupid. And process. Trust it. Trust that it's going to be okay. You're going to bring it back. You're going to sharpen it up. So what you really want to do with this stage, if you do this kind of process, is to think about the marks themselves. Think about the kind of interesting blurs that happen, the kind of textural surprises, the things that make you think, oh, okay, that's an interesting blend or an interesting mark or an interesting sort of blemish within the paper, because it's those bits you're going to want to hang on to towards the end of the drawing. And you are looking for happenstance. You're looking things to happen without you necessarily controlling. I'm not at this moment thinking, where will the windows be, for example? Yes, I've got the basics of the buildings, and yes, I'm thinking about the lamppost, and here I'm thinking a little bit about where the sky will be, but it's all loose enough that I can change my mind, and it's loose enough that I'm not putting any pressure on myself. It's only at this point when we're going in with a line pen, and I'm using a calligraphy pen here, which means it's a pen which is wide in one direction and thin in the other. So depending which way you spin the pen, you can get either a very fine line or a very thick line. When I say very thick, probably about 5mm. What's that, about? Not a quarter of an inch, but close to a quarter of an inch kind of dimension. And the benefit of that kind of pen, I think I'm digressing, but the benefit of that kind of pen is you don't have full control of it. That sounds silly, doesn't it? Because a calligraphy pen you'd think is about total control. I don't have total control of it. Maybe a calligraphy person would have total control of a calligraphy pen. For me, because I'm continuously moving so fast, sometimes the pen isn't in quite the right position. So I get a line that's thinner or thicker. And what I'm hoping for is some of the effect you get from basically a nibbed pen, where with a nibbed pen, the more pressure you put down, the more variance you get in the line. And variance is your friend, because variance stops it feeling controlled like an illustration. It puts in that sort of element of chance, what some people would call artisticness, that sense of you've made line decisions that a normal person wouldn't, or a computer wouldn't. You know what I mean? If you're doing, heaven forbid, some kind of AI urban sketch, and it's drawing every line with the same line quality because that's all it knows. And a human being brings variation to the line, because human beings are variant, because we're thinking different things and our mind's wandering, and so the control we have of the pen is kind of always a bit fluid, and therefore stuff happens, and that's what makes it ours. It's what makes it sort of human. That's why I would never recommend a kind of fine line pen, like a, I don't know, 0.01 or something, because there's no variation. That's the whole point of a fine liner pen, is that there's no variation in it. So I always try to have a pen that's either a brush pen or something like this, a calligraphy pen, because they're inherently sort of unstable lines. The lines are never going to be 100% predictable, and the unpredictability is where the joy is where the kind of energy is where the creative feel is. So you can see what the black line is doing. It's really kind of framing things. It's making sense and logic out of an illogical background. You can see that there is sort of red areas where the red buildings are. For example, the Moray restaurant opposite has a kind of red plum colour facade, and I don't have a plum colour paint, so the closest I've got is this kind of terracotta brown, and I have placed it in the position where that restaurant will be, but I'm not thinking about, as I say, the windows, the doors, the canopies, or anything like that until I get to this stage, until I get to the pen. And the pen is doing all of the work. It's kind of framing the colours, and if the kind of background texture is inappropriate in a certain position, I'm just blacking it out, as if there's a shadow there or a window, whatever it might be, and it's starting to bring a sort of logic. So it's really a pen drawing. In fact, if you've seen the work of people like Ian Fennelly, he often will do something similar to this in a way, where he will put down a kind of blooms of watercolour, big kind of puddles almost of colour, which feel sort of almost abstract. They're not based strictly on that which is being sketched. They're not kind of carefully framed around perspectives and everything else. They're just there to give kind of a background buzz to the painting on top. And this is similar, albeit this is using gouache, and I'm using the palette knife, or in this case I'm using actually a pan scraper, because I like using kind of odd and quirky little scraping devices, because I find, again, they kind of help me to loosen up a bit. And so it gives you slightly odd, interesting marks that, I guess my problem is I fear strictness. I fear that I could become very tight and very precise and very kind of architectural in a way that's completely lifeless. I feel as if I have that in me, the ability to do that, and I don't want to do it. At least I don't want to do it when I'm having a coffee and a croissant in a cafe. I want to do a 20-minute, 25-minute sketch, and I want it to have energy. I don't want to, at the end of it, think, oh yes, I accurately drew the view I had opposite my breakfast place. Why would I want it to be an accurate view? I want it to be an emotionally relevant view. I wanted to feel like I felt. I wanted it to kind of conjure the memory. When I look at the drawing in, however many years' time, I want to remember the moment. I don't want to just see the street scene and the people walking past. So I'm trying to bring lots of personality, I suppose. I think there's at least two kinds of sketchers you see on the street. I think there's a sketcher who wants to capture the scene honestly. They're looking at the true view. They're looking at the value. They're looking at the colour. They're looking at precision, basically, capturing the truism of that view. And I think there are people who sketch in order to kind of reject that, to capture something else entirely. And often then they're producing a sketch that is not a true representation, and they don't mind. And I think it's kind of good for us as sketchers to know what we want to get. And you can change your mind. You can be a different kind of sketcher next week. It doesn't mean that's who you are forever. But I think it's kind of good and healthy to go into a sketch knowing what you want from it enough that you give yourself a chance, really. So, as I say, with this, I would have expected most people walking past within those first, 3 or 4 minutes to be horrified because it didn't make sense. And I think at the end of the sketch, because of the trust in what the line is going to be able to achieve, I think everybody walks past and says, oh yeah, that works. And I think there's a lesson in that. I think there's a lesson in trust, self-trust, trusting yourself. And it isn't about experience necessarily, it's about just working through, It's like if you're doing anything and you have time and you're going to achieve something by the end of it, whatever, you're going for a long walk, then don't expect that to be a difficult process. Expect it to be a long walk. Know where you're going, have an idea of how long it will take, and enjoy the process of walking. And don't sort of continually put little mental blocks in the way, saying, oh, but I didn't walk this bit very fast, or I lost my breath when I was climbing that hill or something. Don't kind of second guess yourself. Don't keep putting things in the way that stop the enjoyment of that process. And I think a lot of people who sketch, especially when they start the whole process of sketching, they're continuously criticizing themselves silently inside, obviously, a little kind of internal critic who keeps saying, oh, but look at this, oh, but look at that, and gets in the way, really. And I think we all have that. I think, people who've sketched their whole lives have that same inner voice that keeps throwing up doubts. It's just a question of how quiet you can make that voice. It's how you can sideline it, how you can kind of laugh at it and say, that's just that internal fear. Just something to be relegated, something to be put to one side, put it in a little box, stick it in the back of your mind and then forget about it, and trust yourself and trust your pen. That's silly, isn't it? But I do trust my pens. I do trust they will get me out. That's why you'll often see me have a pen in my hand and then magically it'll swap out for another pen, especially with things like white pens, where they'll often go a little dry or they'll just not quite perform the same way. And so I'll always have 2 or 3 of them and I'll whip a new one out, because it's about the trusting the pen. And if the pen starts to in any way misbehave, it's gone. Well, when I say gone, it's put back in the bag. Because take this pen I'm using now, it's a sort of oil pen that has a strange quality to it that's a bit transparent. It's great for doing figures. It's great for doing certain things. So it's been living in my bag, waiting for drawing the kind of ghostly figures walking through this street. It's kind of waiting for its moment, and I knew that, and I trusted it would be good at that moment when it needed to be good. So there's something kind of, it's like having a sort of team of supporters in your bag. They're kind of absolutely on side and they're kind of cheering you on and they're ready to do a job for you. I find that very reassuring. It's like carrying around a bag full of kind of friends who can do a job for you. God, that sounds strange, doesn't it? It just makes me sound like a geek about materials. But I think it's important to kind of believe in yourself and to believe in your tools and to believe in the process and to believe in the joy of it, and believe in the pleasure of the day. It was a nice coffee. I enjoyed the ham and cheese croissant. I enjoyed the sketch. Thank you very much for watching along.